A pound of beef now costs as much as a pair of sneakers. A small apartment costs a lifetime of savings. And America's middle class, once a symbol of stability and hope, is moving en masse into vans. They're called digital nomads, minimalists, freedom seekers. But peel back the hashtag vanlife filter, and you'll see families of 3 cooking ramen with electric kettles in church parking lots, veterans organizing military blankets in truck beds, and middle-aged fathers bumming Wi-Fi at coffee shops to send out resumes. These people haven't failed. They've just been crushed by housing costs. They didn't abandon society. Society abandoned them first. Think this is someone else's story? One unexpected medical bill, one sudden layoff, one rent increase notice, and you could join the ranks of mobile residents some night too. What's happened to force an entire class to retreat behind 4 wheels? What's smoking under the hood of the American dream? Let's pull back this deliberately ignored truth together. Because who knows, tomorrow this could be your own reality, when the only things rising are rent and despair. In today's America, losing your home doesn't require losing your job, just your landlord sending a text. Rent's going up next month. This isn't dark humor. This is the coldest reality of 2024. The past 5 years' data is shocking. Rent in many states up over 40%. Average wages up just a few percentage points. Workers in California, Florida, and New York need 133 hours a week to afford a 2-bedroom. 133 hours equals 19 hours a day, no living, just surviving. Now, a tiny apartment with 2 walls and a hot plate costs the same as a used pickup truck. Ironically, more and more people are choosing the pickup because at least it drives away. Supply shrinking, investment funds gobbling properties, interest rates skyrocketing, property taxes exploding. Everyone can list the reasons. But what's truly terrifying is how perfectly this system operates to push the middle class off the cliff while appearing calm on the surface. The brutal survival math. A 3-person household earning $4,000 a month pays $2,600 in rent, leaving $1,400 for gas, food, insurance, medicine, and education. That's it. One cold, one flat tire, a $20 utility spike, and the whole family's balance collapses. This cycle keeps working people continuously poor and homeowners living in fear. Everyone walks that steel wire between apartment and parking lot, ready to snap at any moment. From Seattle to San Diego, safe parking lots are sprouting like mushrooms. Lining up for spots are bank tellers, elementary teachers, registered nurses, normal people who once paid taxes on time and bought houses with mortgages. 76% of vehicle dwellers still go to work every day. They don't use drugs, don't drink excessively, aren't lazy. Their wages just can't buy an address they can write on a resume anymore. One man earns $3,200 a month, but gets rejected by every landlord due to insufficient credit scores. Now he lives in a 2007 Honda Accord. "I'm not homeless," he insists. "I'm just temporarily parked here." The old slogan was America, land of opportunity. Now it should be revised to America, land of rent. Can't buy? Rent. Can't rent? Borrow. Can't borrow? Live in your car. Hundreds of thousands of former middle class have begun an unwilling journey this way. From apartments to parking lots, the American dream still exists. It's just curled up in the back seat having restless dreams. Full-time workers who are homeless. Work 40 hours a week. Congratulations, you've qualified to continue being poor. Americans were fed a belief. As long as you work hard, everything will be okay. Today's reality is you can work yourself to the bone and still have to crawl into your car after clocking out. The federal minimum wage at $7.25 an hour has been frozen for 14 years. During that time, food prices rose, gas prices rose, insurance rose, medicine rose. A fast food meal equals half an hour's income. Filling your tank equals a full day's labor. The online joke cuts to the bone. Working hard won't make you rich. It'll just make you exhausted while being poor. In parking lots at night, there are always familiar silhouettes. A woman in scrubs, hospital badge still on her chest, reclining the seat in an old Honda. An Uber driver folding blankets, starting the engine for pre-dawn orders. They all have jobs, schedules, responsibilities, just no roof overhead. Housing and Urban Development, HUD, data is shocking. Over 40% of homeless individuals have full-time or part-time jobs. In other words, homeless no longer equals unemployed, just wages insufficient to pay for an address. Does this mechanism sound familiar? Work, pay taxes, pay loans, buy insurance, keep working, like a hamster trapped on a wheel. The so-called gig economy gets packaged as flexible freedom, but the essence is legally escaping employer responsibilities. Americans work more hours than ever, earning less than ever. Let's do the math. Work 2 full-time jobs simultaneously, 80 hours a week, after-tax monthly income $3,000 to $3,500. Los Angeles average rent, $2,700. The remaining money, gas, food, insurance, medicine, just reaches zero. You do still have a car. You just live in it now. A Safe Parking LA participant put it clearly. I work at an Amazon warehouse, have stable income, just no fixed address. I pay taxes like everyone else. The only difference is my tax statements get sent to a parking lot. Sounds absurd, but absolutely true. The American dream is now like public Wi-Fi. Everyone can connect, but nobody's truly safe. You can work your whole life and still can't afford a stable place to sleep. Work used to be the key to the future. Now it's just enough to keep you from starving. If you think this is just a poor people problem, you're too naive. Debt, the golden collar for the middle class. Let's be blunt. Debt is the new religion of America's middle class. In debt for tuition, because you need a future. In debt for a house, because you need stability. In debt for a car, because you need face. In debt on credit cards, because you need to feel like you still have choices. The result? National personal credit card debt breaks $1.14 trillion, all-time high. Every second, Americans pay nearly $3 million more in interest. 60% can't scrape together $1,000 for emergencies. So one blown tire, one ER visit, one unexpected bill, and your new address becomes Walmart parking lot section C. A man I met in San Diego recounted, I used to have a house, 2 cars, a 780 credit score. Now I have 1 car, a folding mattress, and a credit score about equal to winter temperatures. He wasn't laughing when he said it, but I laughed, because it was too real to the point of scary. This type of tragedy only people who've experienced stability can understand. You don't collapse from poverty. You collapse from living the way society taught you to live and still losing. Since the 1980s, American culture has deeply tied success to consumption. The more you spend, the higher your status. But nobody told you that to maintain that polished exterior, you have to borrow forever, borrow, and borrow again. The credit system gets packaged as a tool that supports dreams, but it's essentially the wheel that keeps you running forever inside a cage. Americans don't learn compound interest in classrooms. They pay tuition through monthly bills. Banks smile because they know you don't need to have money. You just need to believe you still control the debt. Research shows the average American spends 8 years of their life purely paying interest. 8 years, enough to finish college or drive a van around the country. More and more people are choosing the latter because at least in a van there are no collection calls. That widespread online sarcasm. Americans aren't poor. They just haven't finished paying for everything they've already bought. Everyone sees themselves in that sentence. Debt has become the common language of the middle class, a sweet addiction nobody dares stop using. When credit cards max out and bank accounts freeze, people start seeking life without bills, without collection notices, without interest, just a steering wheel and a full tank of gas. Poverty romanticized with Instagram filters. Open social media and you'll be buried in millions of photos. Vintage vans at sunset, blonde girls clutching lattes, corgis at open van doors gazing at the sea. Looks like a freedom commercial. But you know the truth behind it? Beyond those photos are thousands of real vehicles not headed to beaches, but parked under Walmart neon lights, where artificial glow replaces sunrise. After 2020, the hashtag van life hashtag exploded. Young people call it the mobile dream. Meanwhile, the number of people forced to live in vehicles has hit historic highs. In Los Angeles alone, over 13,000 vehicles are being used as dwellings. 2 parallel universes sharing one hashtag. Left, choosing minimalism for freedom. Right, forced minimalism because you have nothing. Same keyword, completely different meanings. For one, it's a lifestyle. For the other, it's a lifeline. A former accountant told her story. After losing her job in the pandemic, she bought a used van, built a bed and simple kitchen herself, proclaimed freedom nomad life on social media. Months later, her tone changed, choosing between buying gas and eating dinner every night. What kind of freedom is that? Funny yet heartbreaking. This is poverty polished by Instagram filters and chill music, despair with a beauty filter. Van life is two sides of a coin. The front engraved with romance, remote work, stargazing from the roof, breaking free from constraints. The back engraved with reality, unemployment, eviction, credit bankruptcy, nowhere to go. That's why America's middle class both yearns for and fears van life videos. They see freedom, but also potentially themselves in the not-too-distant future. The data is cold and blunt. Past 5 years, America's vehicle-dwelling population grew over 60%. Officials call it a temporary mobile living movement, such a grand term, as if everyone sleeping on streets loves nature rather than can afford a room with a month's wages. To be fair, for many people, vans do bring a certain sense of autonomy. No bills, no landlord, no debt notices. I own very little, but I'm free. In a society where freedom is increasingly expensive, this four-wheeled freedom is also a luxury. Easy to possess, hard to maintain. The younger generation calls it off-grid living. The older generation calls it post-credit era. I prefer calling it the beta test of social collapse, a beautiful, sad, and fragile way of surviving where you can't tell if it's choice or consequence. But behind those vehicles is an entire generation who once believed in government, once believed in the American dream. The problem is, trust has run out of gas. People self-rescue versus government meets. In America, where laws cover everything, even homeless people living in cars have business hours. Enter by 9 p.m., leave by 7 a.m. No music, no prolonged engine idling. This isn't a joke. These are real rules for safe parking programs, places that allow the homeless to temporarily sleep in their own cars. Over 85 safe parking sites operate on the West Coast. But here's what's interesting. The government doesn't run them. Churches, charities, small grassroots organizations shoulder the responsibility because they know if they wait for the government, winter would be over and nobody would have gotten a parking spot. A San Diego church converted its parking lot into a safe zone with restrooms, outlets, and night security. Seattle College students spontaneously organized safe parking projects because city government was still discussing approval processes. Los Angeles residents had to launch petitions just to save self-funded parking spots. So where's the government? Simple answer, in the conference room. One side worries about city image and tourism, the other argues over budget allocation. Meanwhile outside, real people burn $3 per gallon gas just to stay warm. This is the so-called land of opportunity. The only opportunity is saving yourself. Even more ironic, when people self-rescue, the system watches them with suspicion. Some residents oppose shelters, worried about declining property values. I'm not discriminating, just don't park next to my house. Conditional kindness, as long as the condition is invisibility. Thus the paradox is born. Government calls on communities to help communities help. Government shuts down projects for violating zoning regulations. The entire nation trapped in a zero-sum game. Homeless get evicted, middle class fears getting dragged down. Government sits in the middle pretending to maintain order. A safe parking LA participant said, "I'm not asking for free handouts, just asking the government not to punish me for trying to survive." A simple plea, yet the most painful statement of this crisis. In a free society, even the poor must apply for a qualified poverty permit. Unbelievable. A nation that put people on the moon can't guarantee citizens a safe place to sleep in their cars at night. Perhaps what they've lost most isn't houses, but faith that someone's steering the ship. Car keys, the last lock on dignity. America's middle class can lose everything, but will never give up their car keys. Because for them, a car isn't just transportation. It's the last fortress, that line between still okay and total collapse. At California safe parking sites, cars line up neatly like temporary apartment complexes. In a van with an adventure awaits sticker is a former elementary teacher calculating medical bills. In a gleaming SUV is an IT engineer who once owned property in Silicon Valley, using church Wi-Fi to send resumes. They dress neatly, shower at gas stations, show up to work on time. But when night falls, they park side by side in silence. The most widely circulated phrase in the community, "I'm not homeless, just temporarily parked," sounds self-deprecating but is actually guarding dignity through language. Because in America, losing housing isn't just having nowhere to sleep. It's losing an address, job, insurance, identity. The car thus becomes honor's last fortress. Small, but with its own lock. Latest statistics show over 40% of vehicle dwellers have stable jobs, many pay taxes on time. But one late rent payment pushes them to the system's edge. Without a fixed address, they can't sign leases, receive mail, or fill out job applications. The system operates by address. When your address becomes a license plate number, you disappear from society. Cold yet real. A nation that touts fairness ties human existence to zip codes. A veteran I met in Santa Barbara said, "In Iraq, I drove Humvees. Now I drive a Dodge. At least in this vehicle, I still have the right to lock my door." Gentle words, yet they strike society's conscience like a fist. The car, symbol of American freedom, has now become the declining middle class's refuge. Ironically, they still wash weekly, still hang flags in rear windows, as if reminding the world, "I'm still American, though my home moves." In an era of soaring rents and crawling wages, cars have become the only home you can still finance. And nobody can evict you for sleeping in it. They don't ask for pity, just respect, because poverty isn't shameful. What's shameful is that poverty has nowhere to go in America. 2035, parking spot numbers replace street addresses? If Walmart parking lots had Wi-Fi, showers, and charging stations, would it still count as poverty? Sounds like sci-fi, but looking at the pace of change, 2035 might be closer than imagined. Picture this scene: nighttime parking lot, hundreds of vehicles glowing with soft lights. A premium zone with solar panels, and economy zone by the gas station. People streaming Netflix, charging laptops, holding Zoom meetings. On paper, it's called mobile residential communities. In essence, it's housing crisis 2.0, repackaged for better acceptance. Homeless disappears from the dictionary, replaced with vehicle residents. Startups launch housing as a service, monthly rent including insurance and virtual addresses. Sounds modern, but the essence is the old dream newly sold. Who profits? Not the people living in vehicles, but companies building smart parking lots selling dignity services by the hour, showers, laundry, charging, security. One day, safe parking might become a paid privilege. There might even be reality shows, van makeover, from beater to freedom. Americans learn to optimize 4 square meter survival spaces, politicians proudly announce. We eliminated homelessness, just forgot to add, because everyone has a car to sleep in. Economists warned, when inequality gets normalized, it gets repackaged and sold as a lifestyle. It's happening now. 2024 data already points to that future. 770,000 homeless, nearly 400,000 living in cars or RVs. If trends continue, by 2035 vehicle dwelling will become America's 3rd largest housing type, behind only apartments and rental homes. Sounds like a solution, but is actually a sign society has learned to accept division. Last long enough, it becomes the new normal. One day someone asks, "Where do you live?" Answer, "Spot 27, next to charging station 3. By then the American dream hasn't disappeared, it just changed to a temporary address. This isn't their story, it could be your tomorrow. The numbers and stories you just heard aren't about other people. Could be you, me, any ordinary person just one accident away. A medical bill, a pink slip, a rent increase notice of a few $100. We live in a country still shouting about freedom, but safe parking spots have become luxury goods. A nation that can send people to Mars lets hundreds of thousands of citizens sleep in the cars that once took them to work. What's scariest isn't living in a car itself, but that we're starting to normalize it. Now I want to hear your voice. Do you think van life is the new era's freedom, or the final crack in America's middle class? See you in the comments. If you follow deep American socioeconomic analysis, subscribe to the channel and don't miss the next episode. This video is for social phenomenon analysis and perspective sharing only and doesn't represent any organization, government, or individual position. Thanks for watching. See you next time.